Hello, everybody. Welcome to Go Global World webinar again. And again, we are talking with an international speaker, with an expert from a country we are picking to explain you stuff that sometimes you feel some challenges. And here with me today, we have David Beckett, who is going to address these challenges with you about pitching. We had David several times on our podcasts and webinars, and recently we spoke with David on how to pitch and how to pitch with purpose for impact startups. But before that, we also had a few talks about how to pitch to customers, to investors, and to competition. And so far, that kind of content we created helped many international startups already now. However, here with me today, David, again, to speak about how to pitch personal, to make it human. And David is an expert in pitching. Actually, David is an international pitch coach who has trained over 1,500 startups to win over 360 million in euros investments. And he also trained over 25,000 professionals at companies such as Booking.com, Tommy Hilfiger, ING, PwC, and Google in 29 countries, as well as over 30 TEDx speakers. Well, also, it's just so exciting that David is a creator of the Pitch Canvas, author of the books Pitch to Win and Blue Moon Pitch, and the host of the Essential Pitch podcast. And before we begin, I want you to subscribe to his podcast, to subscribe to our channel, like our channel, and of course, feel free to ask your questions during the talk, so you'll have a chance to get the answers from David. Well, David, exciting to have you here. Welcome to our webinar, and the floor is yours. Please tell about yourself, and let's get started.
Thanks very much, Danil. Happy to be back here. So we'll start the presentation.
Thank you.
So hi to everybody. And as Danil mentioned, I'm a pitch coach, and I believe that great ideas need a voice. And as you mentioned, I've coached over 1,500 startups now. And of course, the task for us is really challenging. You never have enough time to tell all the details about your business. So you have to make choices about what you're going to tell, what you're not going to tell. And you're also expected to share a lot of information, but also share what you're like as an entrepreneur. And so I've been grappling with that over the years, trying to find ways to make it so that a startup can really express all that rational stuff, but also express something about themselves as an entrepreneur, and so that you can connect with the audience on a human level. And it doesn't matter whether it's as a startup or in a big company, or if you're pitching to a big company, in the end, you're pitching to human beings. So you want to make a connection with those people. And so I've been constantly for ways to try to help my clients to be able to put that extra personal edge into the pitch. So that's what we're going to talk about today, how to make it human. And as I said, I believe that great ideas need a voice. And, we're in the wildest times of our lives. We've lived through some wild times. We can see that the future is going to be pretty wild too. So we need new ideas to make things better, to change things for many aspects of our lives in terms of daily life, in terms of technology, in terms of sustainability, social issues, political issues. But we need to make sure those ideas are heard and that they're understood. And that's my goal, is to give everybody the tools to be heard, be understood, and then be judged not on the pitch, but on the quality of the proposition, the value that you deliver to the people that you're proposing for a new idea. So great ideas need a voice, and we're here to bring your voice to your great ideas. Now, you're going to receive the slides and many materials at the end of this workshop. I will share the link with you on a couple of occasions. And if you have cast those in the chat, I'm more than happy to answer any of your questions, and I'll make sure to remind you along the way. So we're going to talk for around about half an hour or so, and then we'll take your questions. More than happy to answer them. So we're here to talk about making the pitch human. It's not just about numbers and rational stuff. It's also about that human aspect making things better for real people on a daily basis. Now, the first part of making it human is about the most important part of creating any pitch. So let me take one step back and just share some basics of how most people build a pitch and the way that I recommend to do it. And the way that most people do it is open up PowerPoint, start thinking from their own point of view, what's in their head. What's the story that I want to tell? What have I and my team been working on? What's the product we created? But my advice is put the software aside and do a few things before you even think about what you're going to tell. And one of the first things to do is really to stop and don't open PowerPoint until you've spent time thinking about who you're pitching. So this is the first aspect of making the pitch human. Who are you pitching to? So the task is to think about who's the audience and what do they care about. Now notice an audience could be one person, can be 3 people around the table, could be 20 people at a network event or 500 people watching pitches on stage. So an audience can be 1 to any number. But what's on their mind? What do they care about? Whether that's an investor or a customer, what are they facing? So the first part of connecting as a human being is to think about the human being on the other side of this pitch. Now, I've got a little checklist that can help you grips with this. And you can think about everything that you know about them that you're pitching to or the people that you're pitching to, but take time to research and write down who that audience is. What's their biggest challenge? What's on their mind? If you talking to a customer and you said, what's your biggest challenge right now? What would they say? Then are they innovative? Do they want to change the world or they just want things a bit better? Conservative people tend to want to build on what they've got, and you talk about that. Innovative people want to revolutionize the way they do things, completely change things. Then you position yourself more in that approach. Then are they money focused or environmental or social issues? And if it is money focused, are they looking for growth, cost reduction? What is it that's on their mind as a person, as a professional? And if there's something about environment, about impact, about the talk that we had about that last time around together with the GGW network. And so these are ways to tune into what they're thinking about. Are they theoretical or doers? Do they want to know how things work? What's the process? Or do they just know what next steps are? What do they already know? So you don't go over old ground. Get them shortcutted into the good stuff and the new stuff. And what might be their biggest objective? What's the number one reason why they might say, you know, this will never work because? And this will help you to tune in to their world. I believe this is the first and most important part of making the pitch human and making any great pitch, tuning into that audience. So this would be my first piece of advice. Think about the audience. Be clear on what they're looking for. Now, in terms of building a pitch, I'm not going to go into those details today, but Danil mentioned I created the pitch canvas. And on the web page here, you will find the pitch canvas. I'm going to put that link into the chat a bit later as well. It's best3minutes.com/GGW purpose. You can get the latest copy of the pitch canvas. And there's also a video which explains how to use it. So there's a video of just under 8 minutes. It walks how you use the pitch canvas with post-it notes to build your pitch and what are the key topics in the pitch canvas. So that will help you more with how do you build your pitch. But we're going to focus on how to make it human. By the way, there's also an online pitch course. It's completely free for you. The link for that is also in the webpage. So let's talk about making the pitch human. First, we've thought about who we're pitching to. There's a couple more things that we need to get to grips with. You see, the most important communication principle is something we need to come face to face with. And that is, do people make decisions based on emotions or on facts? Now, I've asked hundreds and hundreds of people this question in my workshops. I ask people, put your hands up if you think they make decisions based on emotions or on facts. When I put my hand up, do they make decisions based on emotions? Almost everybody puts their hand up. Do they make decisions based on facts? Almost nobody. And I always ask people to think about the last pitch or presentation they made. Think about the balance. What percentage of that presentation or pitch was factual and what part of it was more on the emotional side, appealing to the people as human beings. And we have to be honest, quite often it's much less on the emotions and much more on the facts. We want to get all that rational stuff across. Now, the reality is that people make decisions based on emotions and they look for the facts to back it up. So this is Daniel Kahneman, Thinking Fast and Slow. It's about how the brain works. The brain makes quick emotional decisions. It thinks, do I like this? Do I feel something positive about this? Do I trust this? We quickly, if we see a picture of chocolate or a cow or a baby or football or all kinds of things, we quickly, in a heartbeat, have an emotional reaction. When we see text or facts, it takes us time to process. Now, what happens is we quickly come to a conclusion. I like this or I don't like this. I trust or I don't trust. I feel this or I feel that. But then we filter the facts to try to prove what we feel. So quite often we want to capture them on an emotional level as well as a factual level as early in the pitch as possible. So this is really important to know because we need a combination of facts and emotions. Now, if you look in a pitch, the best communication, the best pitch will combine the two, the rational and the non-rational. Now, this is easy to say, but let's go one level deeper and think, okay, well, what is the rational information? What's the non-rational? And here's my basic description. I'm sure you can find some additional points, but these are the ones I came to a conclusion of. Firstly, any pitch needs to describe the pain, and we want to be clear on how big the problem is, how much time is being lost, how much cost is being lost, and how big that market is. We want to be clear on the product and what's unique about that product. How do we stand out from competitors? Have we had success so far? The numbers of traction or the growth, and what's in it for them? How are they going to benefit? Are they going to get a cost saving or a growth opportunity? And investment, how much are we looking for? What will we spend it on? And about the team. Have we got 20 years experience, or have the people worked in these kind of companies which are relevant for the industry? These are the kind of rational things that we might want to cover in the pitch. And these are all highly valid pieces of the pitch. But I've picked out three things which are the non-rational part. The first one is making the pain human. The second is the character of the team. So that's different to the skills and experience. That's the character. What type of people are you? And why you, your personal enthusiasm. So I'm going to walk you through these three things, and then we'll take your questions. So let's talk first about making the pain human. Any pitch, you want to be clear on what's the problem you solve. This is the product. Why did you create it? To solve a problem. We didn't use technology to use technology. We use technology to solve a problem. And the more we can make it human, the better the pitch will be. What's the human result of the problem you're solving? So one example, I coached a team that was working in a large consultancy. They were working on a project where the founder said to me, or the leader of the project said to me, we need to merge our 6 data systems into one system. They had 6 systems that managed data that all their consultants were using, and many of their customers. They needed to put it into one system. So I asked, well, why? Why is 1 better than 6? And he said, because we need 1, not 6. So 1's going to be better. And I said, well, why is that? And we went a bit round in circles. And finally, I said to him, well, you're a consultant. You're going to use this one system. Why do you want to go from 6 to 1? And he started getting a little bit angry, actually. And he said, look, I'll tell you why. He said, every Monday morning, I get on the train. I do my usual 1-hour commute. And I can't access any of this data because it's not mobile. I can't use it on my phone. Then I get to the office and I have 2 computers, can you believe it, to log into the different systems. And the data on this system doesn't match that system. And I spend at least 2 hours every week reconciling that data for reports. And there are hundreds of consultants doing the same thing, wasting hundreds and hundreds, even thousands of hours every month. And this is driving us all crazy. And the company's losing tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of euros every month because of this stupid situation. So we've got to get it to one system. And I said, well, pitch that. That's the story. The story isn't we need to merge our 6 data systems into one. The story is people are going because they can't get this data. They're losing time. It's costing the company money, and people are really frustrated. That's why we're doing this. That's the problem that you're solving in a human description. So think about how you can turn the problem that you're solving into a human situation. Give a day in the life of a real customer, a real person using the system. And it normally comes down to things like lost time, more cost, complex steps, irritation, it's B2B, it's lost customers. And if you can bring that across, it will really help people to connect with the problem. See, we don't connect with technologies. You know, if you're not interested in blockchain, the fact that you use blockchain doesn't mean anything to the average person. If you're not interested in augmented reality, you don't really know anything about it. Why would that matter? However, lost time, losing out on experience with friends, frustrating processes of purchasing or paying, these are things that drive people a bit crazy, and they like to have those problems solved. Now, one additional thing, this is the combination of the rational and the non-rational. Be specific. So it's one thing to share the human aspect, but you also need to be clear on how much is being lost. So instead of saying it wastes a lot of hours, they have to make a lot of, my recommendation is to say it takes up to 72 hours, or they have to make up to 30 calls. This is from a real pitch that I coached for a team in America. And the more you can be specific, the more people can get their fingernails on it. So that combination of the non-rational and the rational, that's what's really powerful. So that's making the pain human. If you have any questions on that, feel free to ask that in the chat. But let's look at the next step, the character of the team. So I've mentioned the team and skills and the experience. And of course, if you ask anybody, what's the most important thing in a startup, they will answer very simply, team. And everybody I've ever spoken to, who I've asked that question, they always say the same thing. Recently, I interviewed an investor for my podcast. In an hour's conversation, he mentioned the word team around about 40 times. The word product was mentioned about 3. And they made it clear we're a team-focused investor. They invest in early stage startups. They're a team-focused investor. So what do you tell about your team? Now, Patrick DeZeo says, don't pitch me your product, tell me about people behind it. And Patrick is the founder of Startup Bootcamp, one of the biggest accelerators in the world. And that tells you a lot about what they're looking for when they're hunting for startups. He doesn't want to know about the products. Even sometimes investors, it's frustrating that they're not that interested in products. They're interested in the people that will manage the product, that will address the market, will scale it up and manage the money. And yet you never have enough time. You have a 3-minute pitch. How much can you tell? So you need to pick out 1 or 2 memorable points. And that could be skills and experience, but it could also be character. And skills and experience, things like complementary skills, years of experience, previous startups or exits. But when it comes to the non-rational side, what about the character? Are you driven by the same purpose? Are you young and hungry or experiencing challenges? What is it about the team as a group of people that means they're determined to solve this problem? That's something the investors are really interested in. Now, I'm going to share you an example. This is a company called Dashmote, and this is how they presented themselves at their demo day pitch.
Team. We are the youngest and hungriest startup you'll see today. We're totally dedicated. We have no wives, no husband, no distractions. We have already worked together for more than 3 years. And Dennis, our CEO, is a serial entrepreneur with a large international network. Together, we have steadily built a strong company culture, product, and team, and a huge will to make Dashmote a company that will leave an impact.
So what you see there is he focuses on character. You see, when we were discussing the pitch, he said, yeah, we don't have all this experience. Some of the other teams have people who've worked in the industry for 20 years. I said, well, then let's focus on the character. And all the people in the team, almost all of them, were fresh out of college when they started the business a couple of years before. So we focused on the fact they've worked together for this period. They're young and hungry, so they don't have husbands or wives, don't have pets, don't have cars. That made people smile. But he also said about the company culture, and we have a strong will to make it happen. So all of this came across as a starting point to say, okay, that's a team that stands out. If you're seeing 10 pitches and you see a lot about experience and skills, you see somebody talk purely about the character of the team, that stands out. So think about how you can talk about the character of your team. That makes it more human, makes the team stand out as more human. One more example of this. I once coached a team called StuCon, and the founder said in his demo day pitch, well, my business partner, I've known him for 25 years and I'm only 27. So that's a pretty big part of my life. Now, of course, that makes people smile. But what it also tells is that when something goes wrong, we stick together. We've been through thick and thin over 25 years, of course. So that tells something about the people that are behind the product. So again, if you have questions about that, feel free to ask them in the chat, and we'll come to those a little bit later. But now let's talk about why you, your personal enthusiasm. This really bring that human personal edge to the pitch. Now, I interviewed a guy called Sean Percival. He's a Silicon Valley investor. I was talking to him about European startups pitching in America. But at the very end of the interview, he said one sentence that I thought really captured what this is all about. I'm going to play it to you a couple of times because it's short and sweet and he speaks pretty quickly. So I'll just play it to you and then I'll replay it and then I'll tell you again what he said because it's so important.
And investors invest in conviction. So if you don't have energy and passion, we're probably not going to invest.
I'll just do that one more time.
And investors invest in conviction. So if you don't have energy and passion, we're probably not going to invest.
And I'm a big fan of the power of three, so I'm going to repeat it a third time. Investors put money into conviction. So if you don't have energy and passion, we're probably not going to invest. Now, I've asked investors, is this really true? Do you need to have a passion for the business? What about if you're just really good at executing? And almost every single investor I've spoken to said, yes, it matters. We need to see enthusiasm and energy because you don't have to just convince us, you have to convince everybody, potential employees, customers, of course, future investors, all kinds of people. So now the fact is, not everybody is this kind of outgoing, hey, how you doing kind of person. That doesn't always work. So what do they mean by energy and passion? Well, one investor told me, I don't want to pitch. I want to get to know you as a person. And this is really, how do you get to know somebody as a person in a 3-minute pitch when you're supposed to tell the problem, the solution, and your traction, and something about the team, and all of these things? But another input I found from Paul Graham, who founded the Y Combinator Accelerator in America, the #1 accelerator. They just had their demo day with 400 teams, by the way. He said, at which moment in your pitch will you be animated? Notice at which moment. So what he means is not everything is going to be the whole, hey, it's amazing kind of thing. There needs to be, though, a moment where you show your enthusiasm. So I think that's helpful. See, everybody's got something that they're excited about in their pitch. We might not be, typical outgoing people, but there'll be something about your pitch and your business that makes you excited. I'm going to give you one more input, again, from the co-founder of Startup Bootcamp, Patrick DeZeo. I was coaching on his program, and I was working with one of the teams. We were close to finishing the pitch. It was a demo day pitch. We'd worked on it a lot, but Patrick really missed something. And by chance, in the coaching session, I happened to be recording it. Here's what he said about why it matters to tell about why your personal motivation.
And show the people that you're excited about it. Why are you doing this on a daily basis? What makes you come to the office every day? Let me tell you why I do this. Because I want to change the world. I want to help next generation entrepreneurs to not make the same mistake as I did. Why? Because I think that's super important for the economy. It's super important for these people. And because it makes me extremely happy every day. Do you believe me?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what it's about. Do I believe you? So I want to go deeper. I want to go here. And I want to know why you decided to spend 24/7 for the next 5 years building this company. Why?
Now, you got very direct kind of coaching input there. And So not every investor will say it like this, but actually this is what they want to know. So how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of things. You need to think about what's your personal motivation to offer this proposition. Now, maybe you're not fully engaged with the problem you're solving. Maybe you found an opportunity, but perhaps you're a person that made a big decision. I don't want to work in a big company. I accept that it's going to take me a long time before I start getting a fancy salary and a fancy car. I'm determined to be an entrepreneur. That could be your story. Or maybe you do have a personal connection with the problem you're solving. Why did you start this business in the first place? And what makes you excited about your proposition? Think about your product. Your enthusiasm really counts. And the best way to do this is to think about something that makes you happy and put that in the pitch. Put something in the pitch that makes you happy. Now, what would that be? That could be something about your product. Maybe you're working on developing a new feature and you made a breakthrough. You finally managed to get that feature in there. Maybe you got a deal with a certain customer and you can tell about that. It took you weeks to get that deal, but you finally made that breakthrough. Or maybe you've been hunting down a certain employee, but you finally got them in because they've got the perfect skill for such and such. What is it that makes you happy? You see, when you tell about something that makes you happy, everything changes. Your face lights up, your eyes get bigger. We communicate in a different way when we talk about things that make us happy. When we talk about the rational business stuff, you tell about your business model, very difficult to be excited about that. You tend to be very informational. But we want to make sure that at least at some stage in the pitch, that moment that Paul Graham said, when will you be animated? We need at least something in the pitch that makes us happy so that we communicate as a human being, excited, enthusiastic. So if you want to find out more about this, I made a video about putting passion into your pitch, capturing some of the things I shared with you and a few others as well. I've packaged that into the webpage that's on my YouTube channel. So do check that out. It's a 5-minute video. Will take you through and remind you. It all starts with you. Finally, people believe in people, not in products or projects. People believe in teams. But when you're the person up there and you're pitching, it all starts and ends actually with you. They want to know what your motivation is. Yes, they want all the rational stuff, the problem you're solving, solution you've created, your progress, all of that. But finally, they want to hear your personal motivation. At this webpage, there's going to be a lot of resources. But now let me switch back to Danil and see if we have any questions before I run the tools, Danil.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's just an awesome talk about how to make it personal. We have a few questions, yeah, and guys, before I just say those questions, feel free to ask the questions here in the chat. Like, subscribe to our channel, and you have a chance to ask David your challenges, and we will try to answer your questions. Well, the first question we have is from SV. It's kind of personal. Investors sometimes interrupt me and ask to skip a slide or two. I get distracted and I get nervous. So what would be your recommendations in this case? I actually been in a few pitches and investors are like, I know everything, like skip that and this, but the person has built their story. Like,
sure. It was actually, I saw a great quote from an American investor the other day. A great tweet rather. He said he was sitting in a meeting with a first-time founder and a young junior guy and an investor. And the investor guy, after one sentence of the startup's pitch, said, wait a moment. Tell me in one sentence what you do. And he wrote, God could not give me that level of confidence. So the investors will jump in, and that is a fact. So my suggestion, this is a little bit to do with how you manage the structure of the meeting. And I've been testing this with investors as well. I've been asking, is this a good approach? And they all say, absolutely. So my advice is, rather than say, okay, I'm going to walk you through my whole pitch deck, there's a 20-minute presentation, is tell them, I've got a short 3-minute pitch, and then I'd like to hear what things you'd like to know most about. And what you do is you give them a short 3-minute pitch, even if you've got a 30 or a 60-minute meeting, which gives them the highlights: problem you're solving, solution you've created, maybe something about what's unique, any progress you've had, something about the team, and maybe a wrap up, something else. But 3 minutes, not much more than that. And of course, it doesn't have to be exact 3 minutes, but 3, maximum 4 minutes. You tell them at the beginning, I've got a 3-minute pitch, and then I'd love to hear what you'd like to know more about. And then at the end of those 3 minutes, you ask the magic question, which is very simply, what would you like to know more about? Would you like to know more about the market, about our product, about our team? What's on your mind? Now, then they can tell you what they want to know, and you can go to that section in your pitch. So what that doesn't mean is don't prepare anything else. What it means is prepare everything, but just give them the short pitch and then get into a conversation. Find out what they want to know about. Why? Because every investor has something different on their mind. One investor will be the product nerd. They want to know all about product. Another one couldn't care less about products. They want to know what you've done to validate the problem or talk to customers, engage with customers. So I understand exactly what you described, the person who asked that question. I've had that experience myself, and I've heard in startups have it all the time. But this is a good way to shortcut it, because you set the scene and you tell them, I'm going to give you the opportunity to ask the questions. Now, sometimes they will say, we'll just go through your pitch deck. And that's okay. But I would still go down that route of starting with a short 3-minute pitch, ask them what they want to know. And then if they say, well, just go through your pitch deck, then you can say, okay, well, let me just walk you through the product a bit further. Go through the product and then say, happy to move on to, for example, attraction, and see and if they've got something on their mind, they'll tell you. So keep the conversation backwards and forwards. Try not to make it too much broadcast. Get into the interaction so that you talk about the things that they want to have answers to. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, it's very good advice, because I've been in similar situations, witnessing this kind of situations with other startups. Like, well, I see that they are doing good job, but the guy is interrupting. I understand he probably seen thousands of similar pitches, but I mean, this person is doing his best and like is giving him a break. Yeah. So we have another.
It's understandable on both sides. And I think, the reality is investors, like you say, they see hundreds of pitches every year. So we just have to accept that, try and keep it short, keep focused on the topics they want to hear about.
Yeah. There is another question from Caroline Scheffer from Germany, actually. How to know who is the best investor for your specific situation and an idea? What would be your top 3 questions to ask them?
Great that you asked this, because in the last couple of days, I have been writing a new online course. So I'm building an online course about how to pitch to an investor. It describes exactly this situation. Firstly, how to build the pitch, and then 3-minute pitch, and then what should you have prepared for the rest of it. But it also talks about how do you find the right investor. And so it's right on top of my head. So first thing is that do the research. And the way to research this is to look at what type of investment they do. Now, actually, there's one really good example that I've got for you. It's a company called Peak Capital. Let me see if I can put this. I'm not sure if I'm able to put this in, but it's peak.capital. That is the website, actually, peak.capital. Maybe you can throw that in, Danil.
Yeah.
And if you look on there, when you scroll through the page, you'll see it shows focus. And then they have a bunch of things that they're looking for in terms of how they make assessments of their of the startups. And there's a whole bunch of Q&A. And they make very clear what they're interested in. So, for example, they are only investing in companies in Europe. So if you're outside of Europe, don't bother with them, because they're not. It's complicated for them as a European investor to invest outside of Europe. So that's the first thing. Secondly, SaaS, so SaaS solutions, marketplace, and I can't remember the other one. They define, Yeah, if you click on our focus there, Danil.
Focus.
Next one up, you've got contact. It's the green one. So go a bit further down. You see our
Okay.
founders, then our team. That's it. Click on that one.
Oh, focus. Okay.
Yep. And it's SaaS marketplace platforms. So they mention, for example, if you go further down, so they talk about team, traction, thesis, and you'll see they have a list of things. If you go a little bit up, you'll see there's all these questions when you click on these things. So go a bit further up. For example, my product has a hardware component. Should I reach out to you? And when you click on that, you see an answer. That's a good question. Given our laser focus on SaaS, marketplace, and platform models, hardware is often out of our scope. So they give a definition of what that means. So most investors will have this. Now, just to put a bit of context on this, I interviewed somebody from one of the partners at that investor. He said as a company, and they've got 8 partners, they see 12,000 pitches every year, between 10 to 12,000 pitches every year. That seems, how is that possible? But that means at network events, email, LinkedIn, everything that they ever see is about 12,000. And they do meetings. Meeting could be a half-hour call or a face-to-face with 1,000. That's also a big number, but it's 1 in 12. How do you get out of that 1 in 12? He said half of it is research, matching you with the investor. So first thing is see what they talk about on their website. Secondly, see what investments they've already made. And does that sort of match what you're doing? If not, forget them. Don't waste your time trying to contact those people. Even if you think, oh, that'd be a great investor for us. If their focus is something different, do talk to somebody different. So that would be my biggest advice, is spend time talking to them. Then once you've got in the meeting, then your question of, okay, how do you find out, is this the investor for me? To be honest, the questions that you ask them, if they like you, they will be pitching to you. But the best thing you can do is talk to somebody that's already worked with them, that has had an investment from them. So if you're in a situation where you've got a good proposition, they seem interested, there's quite some interest from them, and you're at the point where you think, I think they're going to offer us a term sheet, or they already have, my advice would be to talk to people that have worked in startups that they've already invested in. That's the best way to find out, how did they approach it? Were they hands-on? Did they want to know everything, or did they leave you to it? Do they give you good network introductions or not? Have they got good advice? Are they too micromanaging, or are they giving good support along the way? These kind of things you can find out from other startups who have been invested in by that investor. That would be my biggest suggestions. Thanks for your question. Great question.
Yeah, I love this question as well. Thank you. There is another question from the person from Mexico City, I guess, Mario Daniel Aguilon Anzaldo. Sorry if I pronounced your name incorrectly. For a Series A stage and so on, what changes or adaptations should be done compared to a pre-seed seed pitch deck? Good question.
Sure. So I've actually got I'll put the slide on this on the web page later. I coached one team called Signaturit back in 2014, and then I saw them again in 2018. It was about 3.5 years in between, and he said, "Well, we've been using pretty much the same pitch for the last 3 years. We need to change it." And when I looked at what we talked about in 2014, we really focused on the personal motivation, what's unique about the problem we're solving, about the pain the customers were experiencing, because he didn't have much traction. They didn't have much proof. So when you start in that early stage, you're basically pitching a pain, a dream, and a team, and maybe some early validation, what you've done to test if there's a problem that really needs to be solved and whether you've got something that's on the right track. Once you get to that Series A stage, you're really talking about proof. So it's less about the pain, because you can, in the early stage, you're trying to convince the investor this is a pain that's worth investing in. It's a problem that people will pay to have solved, but there's no actual proof. When you're at that situation where you've got revenue, you've got customers. So customers beat all opinions. If you've got customers, you can debate, is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? If you've got a good product, a bad product. But if you've got customers, that debate evaporates. Then you just talk about what you've achieved, what customers you've got, what growth you've got, the kind of numbers. So those kind of things, it becomes a bit more rational. And the human personal story is much less important, actually. You're talking to people who are investing other people's money. When you're in early stage, you're quite often talking to angel investors. They're investing their own money. They might have been in a startup themselves. So they're a bit more on the connect with the people. Once you get to the point where it's Series A and you're investing 5 million, 10 million, maybe beyond, you're investing other people's money. So whilst you want to know the people of the team, you're less bothered about, say, the founder's personal story. You're more interested in, how does this team dynamic work? Are you coachable? Will you solve problems between you well? And have you got all the skills that you need to make this happen? It's a bit less on the personal motivation, because you've already gone through that. So I think the Series A, if I had to summarize, I would say it's a bit less on the pain, it's a bit less on the personal story, and it's more on proof points, traction. What proof have you got? What's been the sort of feedback from customers? What's the evolution of the business? How fast is it growing? Those kind of things are really important. And then, it's as if it's important in an early stage team, but it's even more important once you get to Series A and so on. The qualities of the team, it's a bit more on the rational side, and also how do you fit together? How does it work as a unit? And you might also be talking about things like your advisors. That might be relevant as well. So there's a number of elements that are different for the Series A pitch. These are the big things that jump out.
Thank you so much. Well, I love the questions you guys are asking, and the challenges you face. I feel it, not just hear it, because I've been to Series A pitches, pre-seed and seed pitches, and yes, I totally agree with David. It also relates to my personal experience that the data you should have already through your experience will support you to convince the investors to invest in you, because you already have customer sales, and all that data is like, well, sometimes in some markets they say your customer will vote with their wallets, and if you have customers at round A, and you should, they will vote for you with their amount of money they pay for your product and services.
Sure.
Let's take the final question.
Yeah, I see one question about, how do I show passion as an introvert?
Exactly. Yes. Great question, actually.
Yeah. So I think this is, again, the issue of putting something in that makes you happy. So let me go back a step and give a couple of points of view on this. I think passion is maybe, it's a difficult word, because again, we associate passion with being like that extrovert. Hey, it's an amazing product. We're going to change the world, this kind of stuff. 90% of us are not like that. So, and most people, a lot of people who created startups tend to be coming from a technical side. So they tend to be a little bit more on the introvert. Now, that's a generalization, but there's some truth in that generalization. Now, I think certainty is something really important, and certainty can appear in lots of different ways. Certainty is a way of, is about having, building up your story and being sure of every word you say. So, for example, if you look at Elon Musk, he doesn't talk passionately. He talks certainly. Now, you can agree or disagree with him as an entrepreneur and so on, but there isn't a word that he says that he doesn't believe. Same with Richard Branson. He's not the best speaker, but there isn't a word that he says that he doesn't believe. And you can see that with quite a few entrepreneurs. Even people like Jeff Bezos, if you see some early interviews with them, you see that they are introverted people. They learned as time went on, same with Zuckerberg and so on. They learned as time went on, but in the early days, they didn't know how to make that fancy pitch. So coming back to that question, how to have passion in your pitch as an introvert, I would start with certainty. Certainty means think through in detail each aspect of the business. And that's what things like the pitch canvas are there for. It's also in the webpage that we'll share. And the pitch canvas will help you think through those different questions, and you can ask yourself those questions. The second thing about certainty is saying things out loud. Don't just have it in your head. We need to hear ourselves say a pitch out loud, and that builds that bit more certainty, because when you've said something once, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, the 6th time it feels certain. Now, that one way of getting passion into pitch as an introvert is really about finding something that makes you happy. And I've done an exercise a number of times in workshops where I ask people to introduce themselves to each other. I put them in pairs, and they have to do 2 things. They have to spend 30 seconds to explain about their business, and 30 seconds to introduce themselves with a key. I happen to have my keys here. They have to choose a key and tell something about what that key means to them. So what happens is they take a key and they say, oh yeah, I tell you, yeah, I'm living in the Netherlands, so everyone's got a bike. Oh, this is my bike. And to be honest, I've had this bike for 20 years, and this bike is almost falling apart. But yeah, it's the one I got when I was a student. So, I just love it and I can't give it up. Anyway, my business is we created a platform which uses block, and you see it in their faces. They're smiling, they're happy, they're expressive, and then they tell about their business and everything flattens down. Now, this is somehow logical because you're telling about something that's not about your emotional excitement about something or something that you've had for 20 years. But you need to find something that has that effect. When you talk about that key or that thing that makes you happy, our eyes light up, our face lights up, we smile, we talk about our business, we concentrate, get very serious. But we need to find something that brings that smile, that brightness of your eyes, that makes you happy. And that will really make the difference. If you just need 20 seconds, 15 seconds of that, and that's what people will remember, and they will feel that. So these are my suggestions. Start with building up the certainty, being sure of your story, verbalize it, so you create that certainty of when you say it, but put something in the pitch that you're happy about. That will really help.
Well, I feel like I was that introvert as well. Thanks for answering this, because the examples you made with Elon Musk and those guys who maybe celebrities and those people some entrepreneurs are trying to look at as an example. They were also those introverts in the beginning, and so it's like making a safe haven, understanding that you are becoming that one. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have one more question from Vitaly Petrosyan. What's more important for an early stage startup from the pitch deck perspective, scalability or traction?
Yeah, interesting question. I think my easy answer is both, but that's the easy answer that anybody would give. I think, to be honest, I think that it really depends a little bit on what you've got to offer. So let me give you a couple of examples. I think if you've got some significant traction, as in some thousands of euros per month, and it's growing, probably that's the starting point. But scalability is that's the hope, that's the future, that's the ambition, and that's the vision. So there's a little bit of the phrase from Eric Ries, which is the audacity of zero. And he talks about why some founders are afraid to just get started, because when you've got 0 sales, anything is possible. If you've got 1,000 a month, that feels like a limit. So we tend to talk about the scalability because that's the opportunity, that's the chance. And I think there's some truth in that. So the answer probably is a bit of both. If you've got some traction, tell about that, but don't be afraid to talk about what could be the scalable next steps. So let me just give you an example from my own startup. It's the easiest one I can give. We have a startup which is about helping, surprise, surprise, startups make winning pitches, because it's really difficult. So that's my pitch. That wouldn't be how I normally pitch it, but I'm not here to pitch. And when we showed this to an investor, he was like, yeah, okay, it's interesting, sort of, yeah, all right. But when we talked about how once we'd established this for the market that we know, which is startups and innovation teams in corporates, we would then move into sales, his eyes lit up. Because innovation and startups are a relatively smaller market, but sales, that's a massive, massive market for pitching. So his eyes suddenly started thinking, oh yeah, if they get this right, this could be something much, much bigger. Okay, and then he started asking more questions. Now, how do you apply that to your situation? I think make sure that you keep focused on the thing that you're doing right now, but give a hint about where it could go. You know, once we've established with this part of the market, or we've established in this country, then we can, with just one person set up in these next 2 countries, our goal is to go there within the next 18 months, but we're going to make it happen with this first. So that would be the way I would do it, is give them that hint of where you're going. Equally though, a promise of scalability, you know, it will always be stronger when there's a basis of proof. So if you've got some traction, I would talk a little bit about traction and then give them that hint of the scalability. So sorry that the answer finally ends up being both, but I'm not sure it's a choice between the two. I think the two work together. You know, if you don't have traction, don't be afraid to talk about the potential for the future, the scalability. When we had that discussion about the pitch tool, we had no traction, we had no sales, and his eyes were glowing when he saw the possibility for the future. And I've seen that happen for other clients as well.
Thank you, David. I will also add from investor perspective, from my perspective as an investor, traction to me is something you validate your hypothesis, you validate your product. It doesn't mean that you have a lot of sales, but it demonstrates to me that there is an interest from the market, and there is something into it that attracts attention of your potential customers. And so once I understand that, now I want to think like, what if we take it global? Like I want to multiply it by not like 2 times or 10x, or maybe like let's multiply it by 100 or 1000x. And then I see like if I invest in you, like say $100,000, and it will help you to grow 100 times within the point you are, then my time, my money invested in you will be multiplied by that amount of X potentially, right? And then, right, so if I invest in stocks, how many X I get? If I invest in property, how many X I get? Probably like 2, 3, maybe I lose. But in this scenario, I might really win. And now that's becoming something interesting. Yeah. And then I want to ask you the other question is like, what is your roadmap to get to that point of the scalability? Absolutely. And so this go-to-market strategy and roadmap will lead me to a conclusion if I want to invest. Yeah, I think you just put everything, David, as I wanted to say. I just wanted to add a few words because this is exactly how I think about that. I want to share with you David's website with GGW Impact link. I love it. So this is the link for everyone to go to.
Hold on a second. I think I might have. Is it Impact? Hold on, because I made one for the Impact and one for the human. Hold on. I think I might have given you the wrong one. Just a moment. I had it earlier on.
And anyone who wants to connect with David, he will share his contacts, I'm sure, but also reach out to us. We will connect you with David in case you just have more questions or you want to work with his company. We're happy to share with you his contacts, and we'll be happy to work.
That is the correct link, by the way, Danil.
Incorrect link?
That's the correct link.
All right.
So awesome. GGW Impact is the one. best3minutes.com/GGW. 3 minutes.com/GGW Impact. 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 3 min
GGW means global world, or is something else?
Absolutely.
Awesome.
No, that's you.
Awesome. So do you want to show a few more slides, or you plan to show some of your resources in the end?
Yeah, maybe I'll just show you the web page actually. So if I can share, my screen is being shared now.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, so what you'll find is the pitch workshops, pitch slides, by the way. So there's the slides here. You can download those. Then you'll find the video about put passion into your pitch. There's also the pitch canvas and a video that explains how to use it. As I mentioned, it's about 7.5 minutes, really handy. Walk the steps very easily. There's a few tips here which will help you with 5 steps to preparing winning pitch, mistakes to avoid, and managing your nerves. There's my Pitch Professional app with a lot of pitch tip videos, plenty of other stuff. Online course that's completely free for you. There's about 12 chapters, about 30 minutes of video broken into 12. And there's my podcast and the YouTube channel. And finally, there is one little pitch, and that's for my book, Blue Moon Pitch. But there's a lot of free resources there for you. And it's a pleasure to share them with you.
Sounds fantastic. So the link here in the chat. So just go to this link and check out David's resources. He prepared specifically for you for this stream that we are doing right now. So I suggest we wrap this up. Thank you, David, for amazing talk again. It's more than just inspiration. To me, it's exactly the tools entrepreneurs need to solve their problems and making it human. I like the way you put difficult things and break out in the small, simple stuff and easy to apply. So I'm really grateful for this talk, for the content you shared, and we are happy at Global World always support you. And yeah, please feel free to close the session with the words you have on your mind and on your heart for the entrepreneurs that are watching us.
Sure. So yeah, thanks very much for having me, Danil. I wish everybody all the best. You know, that combination of the rational stuff and the non-rational stuff, that really wins. So if you can get that balance, then that will take you a bit closer to reaching your goals. And I wish you all the very best with all your ideas and bringing your business to big success. And thanks very much. It's been a pleasure to be part of it.
And that was David Beckett from 3 Minute Pitch. And we spoke about how to pitch and how to make it human. Please like this stream, subscribe to our channel, repost it to other social media so it can help to spread the word about what we do and help more entrepreneurs that we are trying to help. Because this is a free content, but it doesn't mean that it's easy to get content. It's a rare content that really helps entrepreneurs. So David, please stay here, and everyone who is watching us, thank you so much for being with us, or who will be watching us later. We still be able to answer your questions in future. And on this moment, I'm closing the session. Everyone, goodbye.